Hello and welcome. My name is Peace Mitchell and I'm co-founder of Women Changing the World Press. Before we begin, I would like to pay my respects to the traditional owners and elders of the land that I live and work on, the people of Mamu country in North Queensland. I'd also like to pay my respects and acknowledge traditional owners and elders past and present right across Australia and the Torres Strait. Well, I'm very excited to be here celebrating dreams and determination. And to help me celebrate, I have one of my fabulous co-authors joining me, Kylee Dennis. Please join me on stage, Kylee.
Hi, how are we, Peace?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, thank you. Very well, thank you.
Now, Kylee, for people who haven't met you before, I would love you to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you and the work that you do.
So, my name is Kylee Dennis. I'm a former New South Wales police detective and moved into the hospitality industry with my husband. And in 2023, my mum became a victim of a romance scam. And as a result of that, I founded Two Face Investigations, where I now investigate on behalf of victims of romance scam and their families. And I educate for the sole purpose of eradicating romance scams from our landscape and just protecting our hearts from the awful, awful, awful world of scamming that's out there.
Thanks, Kylee. So your chapter in Dreams and Determination is From Badge to Battle. Can you tell us why you chose this title and what it means to you?
Well, it was about the foundation of how I joined the police. The person who I admire the most is my dad. And my dad was in the New South Wales police force for, I think, about 40 years. And I watched a journey as a child, and I admired everything that he did and everything that he stood for, and his, we call it pride, integrity, and guts. And it's an interesting three words if you put that together. People call police this word. And it was who he was that has now laid the foundations of who I am today. And that was a story of, I wanted to share this one particular moment that happened in my life that was the pinnacle of where I am today. And yes, and I think that's, the dreams and determination, banner was something very important to me, because it went back to not only one, my word for 2025, but also that determination of what my dad did and then what then happened through my career to get me to where I am today.
Now, you worked for the police for 14 years. Can you tell us how experiences and lessons you've learned through your career have shaped who you are and the journey you're on today?
Look, being a police officer, and I was very lucky. I worked in some really challenging areas, inner city New South Wales, inner city Sydney, and I ended my career in child protection. And I think that you see the best of people and you see the worst of people. And being in the police it's this family that binds you together. And I was very lucky that I worked with some of the most amazing humans on this earth. And that, I suppose, that created who I am, apart from my dad and my family, but that created my ethical values, what I believe in, what I start, how I focus in my life, how I do things. It's funny, I always say that when you join the police, they give you this injection, which is, I think it's a tetanus shot, but I always call it's like as if it's a police shot and it's part of your DNA. And that for me has sort of given me that foundational understanding of, I've been put on this earth to help other people navigate through challenges, I suppose, if we could call it. And I think that those foundational learnings that I learned in the police has certainly followed that through to who I am today. And I've said that, and my dad is exactly the same. And even my brother, who's not with us anymore, he was in the police as well. And we always spoke a certain way, had certain values, believed a certain way. And I think that's just part of who you are in the whole scope of things, I suppose.
Mm. Yeah, amazing. I guess that made it even harder when after 14 years, you had to give back your badge. Can you
Mm.
tell us about this time?
Yes, so I had just had my second baby had just been born, and I'd taken a period of 12 months off, and I just needed about 6 more months. At that time, my husband, we had bought a hotel down the south coast, and the business was going really well, and we had a few issues with childcare, etc. And I had one child in childcare, the other we just couldn't get enough childcare at that time. So I asked for part-time work, and that was I asked for an extension of my maternity leave unpaid, and that was knocked back. And then I asked for part-time work, knowing that I would have to go back full-time, and I had no problems with that, but I just needed just a little bit more time to sort a few things out, and I got refused that option. I mean, it's unheard of today, but we are talking quite a long time ago, and I didn't have a choice. Because I was a detective, I was in child protection, I had to be on call. I was a negotiator at that time as well, which I could have pulled away from that role. But as a detective in child protection, I still had to be on call, and I wasn't able to juggle my baby girls. So I made that decision to resign at that time. And I remember driving up to Cogra, handing in my badge, and driving home and just crying forever and a day. And I think it really took me nearly 10 years to really accept the fact that that badge was sort of part of my DNA, and handing that over meant I was sort of handing a part of me over.
Gosh, that's so hard. And, for working mums, balancing motherhood and career is really difficult. If it was
Oh,
up to
thanks.
you, how would that situation have been handled differently?
Look, I really think they should have offered me part-time work at that time, and even if it was with a end date, to say, look, what we'll do is that we'll give you 3 days a week, etc., whatever it was, and we can sort of manage that a bit better in relation to the family situation that I had, and for me, I reflect back on that. They spent a lot of money on me training. So I
Mm.
was a negotiator. I was trained as an undercover operative. I was trained in intelligence, child protection. I was a designated detective. So we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars that they had spent training me over the years of me being in the force. So I think that losing such a valuable person, I mean, I can reflect back now and say, well, more fool them for doing that, because they lost somebody who had commitment. Or I didn't. I mean, if I wanted to take part-time, I should have been able to take part-time. I had to give up something that I was really good at and very passionate about. My
Mhm.
girls were priority number one. And I talk to my girls now, who are now 27 and 23, about those challenges, and about the decisions that sometimes women have to make. And it wouldn't happen today, but back then it was just an acceptable loss. Basically, let's just lose another police woman, because we're not prepared to offer her 3 days a week. And it's funny thing is, I went to an event, must have been about 6 months after I had resigned, and one of the girls that I started the academy with, she was working 1 day a week. And I remember saying to Sue, oh, I can't believe this is wow. So within that 6 month period of time, maybe 12 months, they had changed their
Mm.
policies in relation to part-time work, which is good. They just lost somebody who was very passionate about their job.
Yeah, such a shame that they lost you, because you had
Mm,
all of that experience and the training and the passion for the work that you do. But the good news
100%.
is that you're now using all of that experience and passion to help people in other ways.
Mm.
You talk about romance scams in the work that you do. Can you tell us what romance scams are and how you help people through that time?
So a romance scam is when someone goes on to a dating platform and they find someone that they're interested in, and they engage with that person, and then that person then removes them from that dating app and then takes them onto WhatsApp, and then over a period of time that relationship evolves, and then the scammer, who the person they believed is a real person, then starts asking them for money. And then over a period of time, the victim then gives up more money and more money and more money. And then it becomes, we identify that it is now a scammer. So what I do is I try to get in before the person hands over any money, and I identify that that person is not the person that they identify themselves on the dating app. Scammers steal large collections of photos and they create fake profiles on all dating platforms and social media platforms for the sole purpose of deceiving people looking for love, or just deceiving people in general, but for me in the romance world, looking for love. So I try to stop victims from giving money, and if victims are within the depths of that relationship, well, then I start to persuade them and manipulate them to remove themselves from that person, because they're just going to continue giving more money to the scammer. And that's the sole purpose of what the scamming does. It's one of the most prolific scammers that are occurring in this world. And it is, I would say, the most devastating because it has the heart involved, not only the financial side of it all, but the love component. So we're trying to protect people's hearts along the way to make sure they don't give any money to somebody that they've never met.
Mm-hmm. Such incredible work that you're doing, and thank you so much for that work that you do. Now, your word for 2025 is determination. Can you tell us what determination means to you and how that word has shown up for you in 2025?
Well, it was interesting. 2024, I went through that, you call it that ebbs and flows. And I woke up on 2025 and I always try to do, a list of, 20 things I want to do, and on the 1st of January. And I just said, I'm determined to just keep giving it a go. I'm determined to get up. I'm determined that I'm going to fail. That's fine. I'm determined that's going to happen, but I'm determined not to criticize myself. And that was a big thing, because I kept saying, that negative, as we do, we always, I have Stacey that sits on my shoulder and she can be really quite nasty sometimes. And I said, I'm determined not to listen to her, and I'm just determined to get out there and make a difference, even if it's just to one person. And that was a big thing for me, to change the trajectory of 2024 and to make something more clear and concise. And that determination is something that, for me, allows me to do something for somebody else. So if I can show my victims that I'm determined to help them, and then I say to them, well, I want you to do this, and use that determination within me to help them move away from a bad situation. I think that's how it all sort of came about. And I say to my girls as well, you might have some struggles, but get up and, be determined that tomorrow is going to be a new day and we can do this, and we'll just keep moving. And determination was something that I needed to do. I needed to say, you are going to make a difference. You are going to help somebody. And that was really big for me, that, determination. And I said to you before, Peace, I've got it written on my board. And it's funny, when I'm having those days of, second guessing yourself, I stand there and I go, okay, you know what you wanted to do. Let's just keep going at it. Let's keep moving forward.
I love that so much. And I think that that's a great word for you for this year. Well, thank you so much for sharing your chapter in Dreams and Determination. And thank you for being here and chatting with us today.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody who has tuned in. Make sure you grab your copy of Dreams and Determination. You can find them at wcwpress.com. Thanks, everyone. And thank you, Kylie. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.